Hey guys, I wanted to give you a status update of this 1925-26 or so Emerson 47641 48-inch antique ceiling fan. This is a pretty rare model. I've had this particular fan since 2018. Just recently found a good place to put it in, and hopefully in about a week you'll see a video on my channel of this thing installed and fully assembled. It's pretty neat because it's a 48-inch fan. It's only got 10-degree blade pitch on it. It's really made to be used in bedrooms or just offices, areas where you don't want like a ton of air movement. It's not meant to be like a long nose or just a real powerful fan, but it's really made to be gorgeous, and it really is. Like it's built so interestingly, the way that they didn't really use a lot of these parts on any other fan, and they only made it for a couple of years in the late 20s, so it's really a unique model. It's got the same basic components as an Emerson long nose, but everything is like shaped differently and bolted up differently. There's the oil cup. You know, that's where the switch would go. And for this particular fan, it's going in a bedroom and it needs a light on it. So I actually 3D printed, actually modeled and 3D printed this light fitter. So I'm gonna have that light connected to those lower screws right there, and these upper two are going to bolt into right there where the switch would have gone. And yeah, voila, light. And I've tapped 832 thumb screws for those. Everything is painted in Rust-Oleum almond epoxy appliance paint. So really good, tough, durable finish. Couple of tips for painting fans is always staging your parts correctly in a way that it's easy to get full coverage on the part without touching it or, you know, moving it or handling it. One thing that really helps is having a rotating turntable where you can spin your parts and paint them all from the same way. That way you're not walking around stirring up dust. That way you're moving the part independent of any wind in the area. And then just another tip is always strip the fan down to bare cast iron, bare metal, and then you want to prime it. I use Rust-Oleum Universal Bonding Primer mostly. You want that primer to dry for like a good 6 hours at least, and then give it a good smooth sanding. I use like 800 grit sandpaper to sand it. Get it really smooth, and then top coat it. When you top coat a fan, you want to get enough paint on it that the paint really interlinks and gets a smooth coating. You don't want to go so light that it looks grainy. You want to get enough on the fan that it really gets it smooth, but not so much to get a run. A lot of times that window is pretty narrow. But one thing I've found that seems to really help is painting in low humidity. Like when I began to realize the link between humidity and surface finish was actually this year. I was doing some fans this summer, and no matter what I did, I could not get a really smooth finish on them. And then I realized, okay, it's, you know, we're getting highs in the upper 90s and it's humid and it's hot. But now that it's fall, I'm doing fans and they just look really nice. So I tend to wait until the humidity is below about 40% to paint, and it seems to really make a difference. Temperature wise, I shoot for like mid 70s. So yeah, I mean, here in Texas, fall, winter, early spring are really the best times to do restorations. But yeah, another good thing to keep in mind is kind of knowing the limits as to what you can remove and what is better to just mask off. Good example are these terminal nuts. They're stuck in there pretty good. I mean, they're threaded. They look like they could be removed, but I didn't want to tear them up trying to get them out. So I just used masking tape to mask them off and paint. The stator on this fan, I left it in place and masked from the inside to keep the paint off of the coils. I mean, if you think about how this would look with all that just sprayed over, it just would not look too good. And I like having it look kind of factory without all the overspray. So it's really worth the time to properly mask a fan before you paint it. These bigger fan motors, it's not a problem to take the tags out. Those rivets can be punched out from the inside with a hammer and a nail or a spring punch. The smaller fans, you can't do that unless you take the stator out for these outer two, so I just leave them in place and mask them. But again, that's not really a problem. You need like an X-Acto knife to get the masking tape just over the tag. But then like on the rotor, I always mask the outer bands of that. What else? Yeah, for the motor cover, you can use some long screws with nuts or tape to get it good and flat like this. I use the turntable. Again, just kind of looking at the paint as you're painting it and getting just enough coverage that everything links up and gives you a smooth coating really makes a difference. And this appliance epoxy paint, it really takes a long time to cure. Like this one I painted about 24 hours ago. I would not want to pick this up and handle it because you'd have thumbprints on the housing. Now 24 hours, you can lightly touch it and you're okay. You know, it's not wet or tacky, but you really don't want to put any pressure on this for, gosh, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 days, I would say. This one I painted just about 2 hours ago. It is still tacky, still very tacky. I would not want to touch that at all. But these parts, you know, they were painted several weeks ago. They're pretty much at full hardness by now. But yeah, I mean, in summary, you know, mask correctly, mask thoroughly, get your parts kind of propped up and on turntables and you know, suspended or whatever in a way that makes them easy to paint. Another good trick for painting irons is I'll use like a sturdy wire, hang them up, hold it with one hand, and paint around the iron, kind of work it from all sides. And then you just hang them up for a couple days to dry. You know, when I first started doing fans, I would do them like flat on a piece of cardboard and then flip them, but then you don't quite get the same consistency on all sides of it. So anyways, yeah, I should have this fan assembled maybe tomorrow, more likely Monday, and then installed sometime around Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving weekend, so pretty soon. And I am really looking forward to getting this one up. I've had this fan, like I said, for like 6 years, and it's a really unique model. It's gorgeous. Couldn't be happier with how it's turning out. It's gonna get a brand new bearing on it. Should really be nice. And then here, of course, is a 4-inch fitter that I designed and 3D printed. Bolts onto where the switch would have gone. Also works in the long nose. And then right there on those 2 lower tap screws is where the socket's gonna go. Just painted this, so the paint is still curing and still settling a little bit. So you see a little bit of orange peel, but when it's fully cured, it's not really gonna be noticeable. You're not gonna see it anyways. It's gonna be way up inside the switch housing there. And those are threaded for 832 thumb screws. But yeah, here it is. Really happy with how it looks. I'm glad to be able to show you guys kind of an in-progress restoration and give you a couple tips. So yeah, hope to have this one up soon. Thanks for watching.